Our next speaker is George Phillips, speaking from New Zealand. George is the CTO of CloudCannon, and he's going to be speaking about building client-editable websites with Jekyll. Over to you, George.
Hi everyone, I'm George, CTO of CloudCannon, and I'm going to be talking about client-editable websites built with Jekyll, as Mike said. For today's demonstration, I'm going to be using an imaginary client called the Cheese Factory, and I want them to be able to update their website. I'll just share my screen. So here I have a working website of my Cheese Factory. It's running on localhost 4000. It shows a variety of cheeses that the Cheese Factory sells. It has an about section filled with lorem ipsum text at the moment, and I have a form down the bottom where they can order cheese. Quite a nice, simple Jekyll website. Here's what it looks like in the folder structure. So I have my config.yaml, my index.html. I've built it locally, so I've got my _site directory, and I've got a folder here for the cheeses collection. And over here, I'm just running Jekyll serve on my Cheese Factory site. So what I want to do is get my my client to actually update the content myself. He knows more about cheeses than I do. And he'll be able to describe his company a lot better than I can. That'll prevent back and forwards between me and him over email, and it'll just generally make him happier that he has control over his website. So for this, I'm going to be using CloudCannon. CloudCannon is a cloud CMS for Jekyll, and it'll just react to any Jekyll site that I drop into it. So I've just signed up for CloudCannon. This is a fresh account, and this is exactly what I get. I get a full screen where I can create a new site, and so I'll just go through the flow of doing this for the Cheese Factory. Add a name, enter, and this will create me a site that I can add files to. I have a few options for adding my files. I can upload a folder, files, I can connect a Bitbucket repository, or I can connect my Dropbox. For this particular example, I have my Cheese Factory website stored in GitHub, so I can click that. And then I get the chance to select my repository, and I can select the branch that I want to connect to as well. For this, I'm going to use that branch. And this will add the files to CloudCannon, and it will set up a two-way sync between CloudCannon and GitHub. Any changes that I make on CloudCannon will get pushed back to GitHub, and likewise, any changes that get pushed through to GitHub will get synced through to CloudCannon. This allows me to keep working locally and keep doing what I'm doing, and the changes that the client will make will just seem like another developer working on the project. And we can see here that I've got the same folder structure as I did locally. Here's my collections directory with my cheeses, and I can see all the other files sitting there. One thing that I get straight away from CloudCannon is a testing URL that I can go to, and this will give me a live version of my Jekyll site that I can view from anywhere. I can send it off to my client to get early feedback. And it will be perfect for when I start making changes. So I have a similar environment to what I have with localhost 4000. If I jump back, I'll just run through what CloudCannon gives me before, just on a standard Jekyll site that I haven't optimized for use. If I jump into the editor, this gives me a live preview of the site. Right within the app. I can view it all. I'll be able to do a lot more here once I optimize the site, but other than that, I can update the front matter and change that, and that'll save back to my index.html file. For the moment, I'll come back to this section of the page once I update some of the other code. If I jump over to collections, I can see that I've got a pages list. This is a single page website at the moment. I've just got one. I could click on that and it would open it up in the editor. This is a really important part. I've got the cheeses here, and this is where my client will be able to add and remove their cheeses. So I'll just go ahead and add a cheese. I'll add a blueberry. So that's actually created a file in my site. It's synced it through to GitHub, and it's cloned its structure from an existing collection item. And here it's detected that here I can update the content section, which will update the markdown within this markdown file. I can update the front matter. It's automatically populated the name or the title field based on what I put into the text area before creating the site. And here it's detected that this front matter variable here is an image. I can click that and change that to one of the other images I've got, or I could remove it or link to an external link. And then on top of that, it's detected that the description field is a long text field. This is just another one of the form elements that we have support for. We also have support for color pickers, date pickers, multi-selects, select boxes, which is perfect for creating your own forms and components which make sense for your collections and your pages. So I can save that. That'll update the front matter within my Git repository, which I can pull through locally. As a developer, I can view the source of this file, and you can see that it's updated the image path. It's got the same structure as all the other ones. And if I jump back to the collections now, I don't really want the blueberry because that's not something my client has asked for, so I can just remove that file. That'll go right through, sync to everything, and update the live website. Now's the time I want to share it to my client. So I have a couple options. If I was sharing it to someone that had a CloudCannon account, I could share it directly to their email. But for this client, I really just want to use our simple client sharing feature. The client sharing allows me to just add a password to any site, and they can come in and enter a password and go straight to updating without having to remember logins, without having to sign up or anything. And it keeps CloudCannon out of the picture. This can be white labeled with agency logos and things like that. And to get here, what I've done is I've gone to the URL and just added /update. And I can enter the same password that I entered before. And this gives me a stripped down version of what I had. In my version, I had the file browser. I could open things up in the code editor. I could update settings. I had a status section where I could see what was happening, or how the syncs have gone, or whether or not I have a build error. And you can see here, the client gets dropped straight into their site. So they go from viewing their site to updating their site, and it should all look the same, just with configuration options. We have the front matter here, like I did before. They can't swap to the code view. I can just turn that off. And then I can come over to the collections, and I could add and remove a cheese, just like I did before. I can open this up and update an existing one, and update that front matter. Now that my client has taken a look at this, they're pretty happy with the way the site looks, I can start optimizing my site for CloudCannon. And one of the main features that I wanted to be able to do was actually updating the text here. And down here in the About section, I wanted them to write their own company blurb. So I'll jump back to my version of the of CloudCannon, and I'll start updating the code. So what I want to be the feature I want to be using here is editable regions, and for that we just need to add the class of editable to the sections that I want my client to be able to update. And this will give them the opportunity to edit their content directly in line on their website, and all the content changes they make will save right back into my original HTML. So I can add these editable classes, I can hit save, and that'll rebuild my site with those changes, and that'll become live, and I can jump back and refresh the client editor. And now that I've added those editable regions, I can keep my mouse still and I won't see anything. If I move my mouse, yellow boxes will appear around the sections that I can update. So I can click on here and start making changes. I can make bold, italics, or links. And actually, I actually missed a section here that I wanted to be updatable. So I'll jump back to the code. And I'll do this one slightly differently. I'll wrap this one in a div, and because I want all of that to be one section, I'll just wrap them all in one parent element. Wait for that to build, and then I can jump straight back to the client editor and refresh. Now if I scroll down, those sections that I had editable before are still editable. And now my larger content section is editable as well. If I click on this About heading, you'll see that I have quite minimal controls. This is because it's on a heading. Since I added the editable class to a div here, that gives me quite a few more controls. We use the semantics of the element to decide what should go into this, controls should go into the element when it's being updated. So in this section, I can write content, I can hit enter, it'll create a new paragraph, I can add images, lists, block quotes, and using these different types, we can generally control what the client can and can't do. So you can make sure that they don't break the layout of your site. You can just give them less controls where things are a bit tighter. And we have one other type of element, and that's a FanLevel Element, which you can only update the text on. So once I'm happy with that, I'll get rid of that history title because I don't want that. Get rid of that, and I'll need to return this to normal text. And I'll update this heading here. Save. And that'll push back to my my version of the site right here. If I open up the index.html where it was originally placed, I can see that my heading's been updated with all the cheese. I had some CSS formatting on there to make sure that that text was uppercase, so the casing's a wee bit funny, but that's okay. So the next thing I want to do, once I'm happy with all the editable regions, they can go away and update that content while I'm focusing on other things, is I want to optimize their experience of adding the cheeses. At the moment, this collection doesn't use the content block. I just have markdown files there which work more as a data store than anything else. They just use the front matter, and there's no actual markdown used in the content. I could have put my description down there, but I really didn't want them to be able to add formatting and things. And in the markdown, it automatically injects like a p tag around the content, or yeah. So I wanted to make sure it was just straight text that was on my description. So what I want to do is hide that content section, so when they are updating cheeses, they don't get confused about where they should be adding the content to. So I'm just going to configure my collection here and type hide content true. And once my site is rebuilt, I can come back to the collection view, and I can select one of my cheeses. And now that I've hidden the content, that content area is gone, and the main focus is entirely on the front matter. This configuration can be made on any markdown page, whether at a collection, post, or just a normal page. So that's it for optimizing it for my first version of the site. My client is ready to dive in and start updating the content. I just need to share my password, and I can send them the link to update that, which is perfect because I don't have the domain name set up yet anyway. Yeah, so in my imaginary situation, I have my client has come back to me and asked to add a blogging section to the page. And I don't really want to interfere with my existing version of the site. This is quite a drastic change. On my local environment, I have updated and added posts to Jekyll, which is a perfect example of Jekyll. And now I've pushed it through to a separate branch, so locally I'm keeping the changes separate as well. I want to keep that structure on CloudCannon, so I'll just create a new version of the site. And just like before, I'll connect it with GitHub. I'll select the same repository, and I'll use the blogging branch. And that will set up a new two-way sync with that particular branch. And any changes that happen will get pushed through in the same way. So that's synced through. CloudCannon's building the version of the site now. And you can see I've added a few more folders compared to the other one. So I've got an underscore post directory, and I have another page here as well. So I have the news page. And if I jump into the editor, I can see those changes directly within the app. So I can see it's very similar, except I've added a navigation item up the top. And to navigate to that new page within the editor, I can just navigate like I would on the live site. So clicking that will give me access to the post directory. So here I can see my posts have an image attached to it. I'm displaying the excerpt here. It has a title and a date. And if I click on that post, I can edit the, I can see the image is used as the cover as opposed to the default image. And down here is a feature we released not long ago. It's detected that this is a markdown file within the visual editor, and it's detected that it's the only child of its parent where it's outputting the markdown. And this will mean that I can update this content directly in line, and that'll save it right back to the markdown file. And this is really good for updating parts of the post that are really important to update visually. You want to make sure that it looks right with all the styles applied normally. So I'll just add that as a heading 2. And I can hit save. And that will take the content from that block there, which is just my markdown, which has been put through Cramdown, and it will save back into the original markdown format. And of course, I can update the front matter here as well, including changing its layout, updating the image path, and updating the title and its category. If I had a set list of categories here, I could have configured this to be a select box with very little work. If I jump into the content editor now, I can do this because it's detected it's a markdown file. I go back to that same view that I had for the cheeses, except in this case the content section is actually used. And then if I jump over to the collections section, I can see that the I now have an extra section here called posts. Much like the cheeses, I can just open that up. I can add, I can remove posts. The only difference is that I can add a draft as opposed to just adding a cheese straight away. That'll put it in the underscore drafts directory and it will have a publish workflow. How am I doing for time, Mike? I might just...
You got 4 minutes. Yeah, either you can do another demonstration or we can get straight into Q&A.
I'll jump into another demo. I'll show off another part of the interface. So in this example here, I want to add a new section so that if the person decides, they can hide the cheese section. Show cheeses. I'll just add a Boolean value, and I can go show cheeses, and here I can go if page.show cheese. I need an extra S there. And hit save. And straight away, I've given my client the opportunity to toggle the cheeses section on and off, which in a lot of other systems is quite complicated. But now they just get a select box, a checkbox, and if I toggle that and hit save, CloudCannon will detect that a change to the front matter has occurred, which will impact on what the screen will look like. And once that's rebuilt, I can scroll down and see my cheeses section is gone. And if I turn that back on and hit save, it'll rebuild my site in the same way, and it will show my cheeses section. If I scroll down, my cheeses are back again. So that's, I'll just stop sharing my screen. Yeah. So that's it for my demonstration. Everything I showed you today is available on CloudCannon right now. And what I managed to achieve was my client can now update all aspects of his website. He can add, remove cheeses. He can write in the cheese weekly. And everything, I can still work locally the way I wanted to, because all of his changes are going to be pushed right back into my Git repository. And I can get all the power of that, so I can do merging, pulling, pushing. And they've got a live website, which is perfect because I didn't have hosting before. So yeah, you can sign up for CloudCannon. You can get a 30-day free trial and try everything that you saw today immediately on your Jekyll site. It'll detect what you put into your Jekyll site and give you the interfaces you need to update that. On top of this demonstration, I'm happy to announce a few things that we have added or will be adding within the next week. So we're currently running a SSL private beta. If you need HTTPS support on CloudCannon, just contact us and we'll let you in on that private beta. And the other thing is something really exciting. We've been wanting to add this for a very long time. And within the next week, we'll be releasing support for plugins. This will mean that you can do a much wider range of things on CloudCannon and still have the editing functionality. We're pretty excited to see what people do and how much value that adds for everyone. So once again, if you want to try out CloudCannon, go to CloudCannon.com. You can sign up free for a 30-day free trial. We have support directly within the app, or you can tweet at us, email us at support@cloudcannon.com, or you can even email me directly if you have any questions about my talk at george@cloudcannon.com. Thanks for listening.
Awesome. And the files from today, where can we find the files for the website?
I'll put them out on a tweet, but they can be found at George Phillips / The Cheese Factory on GitHub.
Excellent. Okay, we've got a few questions here. So what do you expect people to be able to do with Jekyll plugins that they couldn't do before?
So the most minimal example I can think of in recent times is simple things like MD5, being able to add gravitars and things to the posts. That's a really simple example. A great example of something that's missing for a couple of sites that I built were being able to generate pages from data files. We've had a lot of requests for that. And yeah, a few other things like, I mean, we just saw search, which would be great to add. And it looks like we can get that straight out of the box now, which is pretty cool. Yeah, so
cool.
Plenty of things.
Yeah, and how does the feature development at CloudCannon, like how do you decide what to build next?
We're pretty feedback driven. So if we find something is blocking certain customer, we'll prioritize that over something that we can give a valid workaround for. And then weighing up how complicated it is and how much it will help people. But we're always looking for more and more feedback from our customers, and we're really lucky that they are really vocal and tell us what they want.
Awesome. And what can we see from CloudCannon in the future?
Our big focus now is getting the plugin support really well-rounded, and no doubt we'll find a whole lot of things that we need to add to the editor for that. And then we want to be focusing on making that editor experience really nice. So you'll find probably more frontmatter editing capabilities. Like over the last couple of months, we released the color picker and a couple others, the multi-tagger, and they just really help round out the product and make sure you know you can do what you want and give your client the experience they want to. Other than that, we've got some exciting features around syncing and syncing the compiled output of that site as well. And we want to be able to tie into other services and make sure that you can have all the control you have. The fact we are a cloud CMS, we need to be able to support everyone's workflows.
Great. That's all the questions we have for today.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks for speaking today, George.
Pleasure. Cheers, Mike.